Yeah, so I'm a miracle baby. I know that probably should have been the first episode, but the reality is there is a really good chance I'm not even here. And to explain that, my grandpa, Delmer, from my mom's side of the family, he went to World War II when he was 18, 19 years old. He landed on Normandy Beach the day after D-Day, so like just literally 24 hours after the D-Day. Drove a tank in World War II. He was around farms, construction, and so forth when he was growing up, and so he knew how to drive a Caterpillar, and so that was pretty translatable to a tank. And so when he showed up at boot camp, they asked people if they knew how to drive something like a tank, and he basically raised his hand, probably saved his life. He was able to drive a tank across Europe as part of the forces, and in fact he got assigned to the radio tank, which also kept him to the back of the battalion as it went across, and happy to say he survived. Now, the part that makes me a miracle baby is that my grandpa actually got shot twice. Once in the face. This is what actually eventually got him sent home. That was the second time. The first time, it was the middle of the winter. He was out of the tank, actually going to the bathroom on a bucket, and a sniper shot him and actually nicked his testicles. And he said the doctors told him he was like within a quarter of an inch of him never having kids. So thus the miracle. I was, conceptually it was within a quarter of an inch of my mom never being a thing and me never being a thing as a result too. So, that's a miracle. Furthermore, I eventually found out late in life that he told me on the side that he actually, when he got home from the war, proposed to a different girl before he proposed to my eventual grandma. So I'm not sure if that was public knowledge or not, but nonetheless, when she declined, he said he threw the engagement ring into the grass where the eventual fire department firehouse was placed. Has no idea where it went, but nonetheless, so yet another chance that things just didn't go the way they went. So I'm here. Grateful for that man. He was, incredible guy and great role model, work ethic, and so forth. So beyond the miracle baby part of that, I want to talk a little bit about work ethic and how and where do you get work ethic? Is it learned? Can it be taught? How does that happen? I'm of the belief it is a bunch of things that come together. I think it's observed. I think you grow up around folks that can be an influence on that. You observe your grandparents, your parents. And then it's also, I think, a little bit about what environment you grow up in and learning the value of a dollar and being motivated to earn that dollar. And so, as I said, my grandpa, come back from World War II, joined a construction company he eventually worked for over 50 years at, driving Caterpillar, dragline, truck 4, the bigger chunk of that. And my parents eventually, my mom got pregnant with me while she was a senior in high school. 18 years old when she had me. My dad was 19. You think about the likelihood of kids that age being successfully married and raising kids these days, that just seems almost incredible. Another reason, probably a miracle baby. But so my mom wasn't able to go to college as she had intended to because of having me. My dad was essentially the last person ever hired into the State Game and Parks Commission without a college degree. Lucky. But they both worked very hard to take care of me and my sister. I observed a great work ethic my entire life. We did not have money. They both did what they had to do to provide for us, but I learned very early what it was like not to have money. I knew I wanted to have some money. I got to learn, what it was like when our car's transmission went out. They had to go borrow money at the bank to fix the transmission. I just knew that isn't the way I wanted to live. I didn't look down upon my parents. I just knew that I wanted to have more. But I was motivated to have things. I knew I needed to mow yards and things like that to have the things I wanted, like basketballs and bicycles, and eventually to pay for the gas for my vehicle, to be able to go out and take my girlfriend to a movie or things like that. So, work ethic. Some of that work ethic is simply motivation, I think. Motivation to get out of bed. So in a small town in Nebraska, there aren't a lot of part-time jobs. There's no fast food joints. There's not a lot of places to work, period, even for the grown-ups. But the one sure thing was detasseling of corn. So essentially, for those of you not familiar, seed corn companies need the tassels, the top part of the corn stalk, pulled out so that it can be cross-pollinated appropriately to create the seed corn, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so they hire kids, essentially from age 12 or 13 all the way up to seniors in high school, walk these cornfields and pulling these tassels out of every single corn stalk down the rows, all day long, all summer long. This was the summer job, and it was usually minimum wage. So back in my youth, that was $3.35 an hour. Not a lot of money, but it was the only choice you had. So you get up at the crack of dawn, like 5 o'clock in the morning. Some cases driving all the way to the next town over, Silver Creek, and jumping on a school bus, driving out to the fields, getting into the fields while it was still dark out. In some cases, the corn leaves were wet with dew. It was cold, it was wet, it was awful. And you would do that till 3 in the afternoon in some cases. By 10 o'clock in the morning, it was starting to get hot, it was dry. Now it's 100 degrees by noon and it's miserable, and you just did what you had to do. That was the only way you were going to make money. And that's where my work ethic got built, because you knew the only way to get through to the end was to get through, and you just kept going. And in many cases, a lot of the other kids in that field were smaller than me, weaker than me, and they just were doing it too. And the minute I would start feeling sorry for myself, I would remind myself that many of my friends were there working all summer so they could buy their own school clothes. I didn't have to do that. So I just didn't have it as bad as a lot of my friends. So I learned the value of the dollar. So those days where I'd wake up and say, geez, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And ultimately, I would have this conversation. I would have this argument with myself. Well, is it worth $35? That was about what you'd make for a full day's work. $35 to stay home today. It's like, oh, no. Where are you going to make that $35 up? Where are you going to make that up at? Because you got the rest of the year, no job outside the summer. Where are you going to make that up at? For other activities. When you want to go do something in the middle of the winter and there's no money, what are you going to do then? You just talk yourself out of not going. Of staying in bed. You knew exactly what you had to do. And then when you spent that $35, you very succinctly remembered the value of that $35. It was an all-day event in those shitty conditions. And so you thought long and hard about whether or not it was worth it for that, whatever you were buying. And you didn't spend frivolously because the amount of effort you put into getting that. So I think long story short is, I think work ethic and the value of the dollar kind of go hand in hand. I think some of that is the result of your environment, where you work, where you grow up, the environment you grow up in, the people you watch. I used to, in my early years of interviewing people, that was actually one of my interview questions of, so what'd you do for a summertime job? If they said they detasseled or rogued corn, which is you'd go through the corn and chop out weeds and so forth, they had a pretty good chance that I was going to give them a good shot at the job, because I knew they knew what hard work was. If they had been, a lifeguard at the swimming pool, I'm not sure. They knew what hard work was, and that was more of a concern to me. But long and short of it is, it's something that's very important to have instilled in you. I think it sticks with you from an early age. If you don't give your kids a chance to develop that, I don't know how they're going to get it. I don't know if you can get it later in life. But I know it's a really important factor to know when the going gets tough, whether people are going to step up, whether they're going to be there to deliver when the stuff is hard. Because I know, just kind of like the idea of learning your craft and the 10,000 hours or the 10,000 repetitions, I know when I'm in the middle of something hard, the concept of not quitting came from not quitting 10,000 times in those corn rows and just knowing it's simply not an option to give up. I practiced it over and over and over again, that even though it's really hard and it really sucks, you just don't quit. It's not an option. You just keep going. The only way out is through, over and over. So with that, thanks for listening.